Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to do a book review of Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This is a debut novel and the author is from the UK. And yeah, let's get into it. What is Queenie about? So Queenie, I didn't really know too much about what the book was about before I read it. Honestly, I just heard it was like the Black Bridget Jones, which didn't make me want to read it. What really made me want to read it is this cover. I was like, this cover looks so freaking cute and dope. You know, the box braids to the side and on behind the ear it says a novel, like it looks like a little tat. I was like, hey, okay. So however shallow that makes sounds, that's what made me want to read it, and I've been seeing it everywhere. My take on it is it's about a mid-20 something year old young woman who, you know, she's like 25, 26 throughout the book, who we're following her dating life and the poor decisions that she makes while dating and kind of her self-esteem issues and some of the events from her past that are in her present day. It does tie in some mental health concerns and different aspects, but let's get into what I liked and what I didn't like about the book. What I liked about the book, the writing as far as the way it flowed and the dialogue throughout, it was a page turner. Couldn't put the book down. I read it within like 3-4 days. Like, I didn't expect to read it that fast. It just really was an easy read as far as the way that it flowed. I also really liked the actual therapist who was in the book. I felt like she was a good representation of what therapy could look like and what a good therapist who supports you looks like. So let's get into what I didn't like. So let me just start by saying, while I was reading the book, I didn't have any issues with the poor decisions that Queenie was making at all. Like, she was making, when I say I didn't have any issues with it, that didn't make me feel like this book wasn't good. Like, I like flawed characters. I don't have an issue with my characters making poor decisions or anything like that. So wasn't that. But what I didn't like is some of the things that were said and some of the suggestions that were made are troubling. One of the main things. So Queenie, she's a 20-something-year-old girl who does not date black men because of her seeing her mother in a bad relationship with a black man. I would buy that, but I don't buy that because literally we're following you dating all these white men who are treating you like straight manure trash. So the fact that that was never really tied up or really explained as to why she really is almost repulsed by black men, I would like that to be addressed. Another issue I had, which also anything doing with the race stuff as to why race was tied bothered me. So while I was reading the book, I was actually enjoying it. I was kind of like, okay, this is actually pretty good. Like, I was in the 3-star range while reading it. And then we get to the end of the book towards the chapters 20. And I'm like, wonder how this is going to tie out. This is really going, you know? And then we get to chapter 25 and record start for me. So I'm reading this and I'm literally reading all of your poor decisions that Queenie is making up until this point, waiting for us to understand and discover what is the big aha as to us connecting as to why she's having unprotected sex, why she's letting people treat her like trash. And we get an answer. And I'm like, what? How did we get this conclusion? Where did this come from? The therapist is talking right now. Her name is Janet. Your upbringing was not one you should have had, Queenie, Janet said. You witnessed some traumatic things. You should have had love and care, and I'm sorry that you didn't. It's all right. It's not your fault, I snapped. These things happen. It happens a lot in my culture. Us black girls, we're always meant to know our place. And do you think that you've trapped yourself in this message to the present day? Do you think this is how you see yourself, as having to stay mute to know your place? It certainly sounds this way, Janet said sympathetically. Perhaps that's why sexually you go along with these acts, as to not rock the boat. How could I not be trapped in it? I interrupted. I was on one apparently today. Well, Queenie, I think that you're taking on a burden that isn't yours. You can't carry the pain of a whole race. It's not a burden I'm taking on. It's one that's just here. I can't wake up and not be a black woman, Janet. I can't walk in a room and not be a black woman, Janet. On the bus. And she keeps going on and she says, you know, when we go out, my friends get chatted up by guys who say, I'd love to take you for dinner. And in the same breath, they come over to me, put their hands on my bum and tell me they want to take me back to theirs and F me over the arm of the sofa. This past year has shown me that I can't have a boyfriend who loves me. And then she goes on, I'm so damaged, Janet. Years of being told I was nothing, years of being ignored. I'll take any attention, even if it's being effed. And she just keeps going on and on about basically because she's a black woman. That's why she's tied out as to why she's having unprotected sex and letting people painfully insert themselves into her. And like, you know, and I'm not one of those people who like, you know, this isn't because I'm like, oh my gosh, white people are going to read this and think this is true. Honestly, I don't think about what white people are thinking when I read stuff like that's, I don't really care, to be honest with you. I don't want no black girls reading this. I don't want no black people reading that and thinking that. Like, no, that's what we not gonna do. Am I crazy? I feel like that's just flat out offensive. Another issue that I tabbed, and this is her one black friend, and she's basically on a dating app or whatever, and she's talking to her and she's like, help me. What if he's one of those white guys who likes black girls who are properly put together, not ones like me who are a bit alternative? What do you mean, fam? You know, like what if he expects me to turn up wearing Louboutins and a bodycon dress and have like contour on my face and fake eyelashes and a lace front wig? And her friend's just basically reassuring her that no, that's not going to happen. Don't worry. He's seen your pictures. He knows, like, you know, you're basically typical black girl. Whew, child. Where to begin? You're basically saying a stereotype and you're making it sound like I'm cool, I'm a bit alternative. I'm not your stereotypical black girl who wears all this weave, lace front weave and eyelashes, as if white people don't wear fake eyelashes or weaves or bodycon dresses or any of this, and Louboutins and all this other crap. So it's just like, it put a bad taste in my mouth. All right, so I don't even know at what point the battery died yesterday. So I'm just picking off where I left off. But basically, I will summarize with Queenie. Things I loved about Queenie, I really loved the way that it showed the mental health as far as her seeking therapist, her showing what that relationship is like with the therapist, as well as how you can seek therapy even if your family is being resistant. Like, I like that it showed that dynamic of her family had a lot of stigmas with seeing a therapist and how they were very resistant to it, but throughout the story that you can see them fully coming along and around to it. I think that was really, really great. But that's really the positive that I see in that story. It was outweighed by so much that I didn't agree, where I can't recommend this book. Like, honestly, it's just the fact of it being misleading, of not clearly stating that this is an individual experience versus representing people as a whole, especially since, you know, the author, I did watch a video of the author, and, you know, when she talks about the comparison of this to Bridget Jones's diary or whatever, and she's just like, you know, well, she can see how it is, so she thinks it's an accurate description, but hers is more of a political piece. And I'm like, I could completely be missing the mark with this as far as understanding what the author was going for, but I do feel, you know, in her own words, of calling this a political piece and making some of the generalizations where this seemed to be a specific story centered around Queenie. I think that's kind of dangerous to even imply in the least bit that some of those decisions and some of those actions had to do with being a black woman versus dealing with trauma and, you know, trying to learn how to love yourself. So I wish it focused more towards that versus kind of grouping all of that together, because that gets very confusing and very dangerous quick. I don't know what the author's intention was technically, but yeah, it just didn't sit well with me. It was just very weird. It was very confusing. I'd be very curious to know, you know, from other people who have read the book, please tell me your thoughts. And I haven't watched anybody's reviews, but I know that Katie has a video, so I will definitely watch that afterwards. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts. So as always, let's keep this conversation going. in the comment section below. I will leave you guys here. Love and light, and see you guys in the next one. Bye.